So we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for taking the time to join our Agent Fabric webinar series. Today's session is session 2 of the 4 that we are going to continue over the next couple of weeks before Thanksgiving. You can take a shot of the QR code to give you access to the schedule of events, and definitely would like to see you next week. My name is Melanie Ramsey. I'm an oil and gas and energy account executive here with MuleSoft. We also have David Vancina, who is our distinguished chief architect and will be driving some of the conversation. And then Michael Salimi, who is a senior solutions engineer, and he'll be actually doing the demonstration of showing Agent Fabric in the works. With that, I would like to review the agenda for today and how we're going to run this, really trying to establish a digital foundation for your agents in very high asset industries. David's going to talk about some of the architectural imperatives that companies are looking toward and where should they start. And then we're going to turn it over to Michael to really go into the demo and show agent to agents in action today. And we've left a few minutes to have a panel discussion. So please feel free to ask questions in the Q&A Zoom chat. And again, thank you for attending. To get started, I just wanted to level set where we are, energy companies, where are today. And I thought this quote from Ami Nasser with Aramco said it best. Really, advanced analytics and automated decision making are essential to improve reliability, reduce unplanned downtime, and enhance safety across our operations. And there's really no better time to do that than it is today with new AI. To level set on some of what's energy industry is adapting to this changing world. I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but I did want to highlight a couple that I think will resonate with the folks on the call today. Really, artificial intelligence and the rise of the data economy, changing the way companies are operationalizing the data, leveraging the AI and emerging technology, and really trying to leverage digitization to cut cost. There's a next generation of field operations and safe operating practices that are happening in the market industry today, really meaning that everyone's trying to optimize their maintenance planning and even execution so that they can reduce downtime and predictably be able to manage those large assets. And then lastly, another key kind of theme that energy companies are seeing and responding to is that being able to enhance the customer experience, so that go-to market execution with digitization and really trying to drive the excellence to build brand loyalty and so forth. So those are some of the industry trends that we're seeing. With that, I'd like to turn it over to David Vancina to talk about the architecture and how we approach some of these challenges. David?
Great. Thank you, Melanie. Now, in our first session, we talked about some of the imperatives that come with the expansion of agents in the enterprise. And one of the things that we discussed is the fact that with all of the enterprise applications that you have in your landscape, there is going to become, or maybe you already have, a fast expansion of the number of agents in your organization. Early in the cycle of enterprise adoption of AI and LLMs, it was imagined that there might be one LLM that would handle all tasks, but it quickly became clear that was not a feasible approach. In addition to that, there's simply the fact that each application vendor, whether it's SAP or Microsoft or ServiceNow or Workday or even Salesforce, is adding agents, specialized agents, to their applications. And as a consequence, the challenges of managing all of these agents are coming to the fore. Because those agents are specialized, they only do certain things, and trying to find the right agent can be just as challenging as just finding the right data now. Siloed data in an organization has been a thing for a long time, and we're seeing that same problem emerging with agents. Agents operate on prompts, but the experiences and the ways that they respond can be different. And that raises not only usability risks, but also security and compliance risk. Who manages the guardrails? Who imposes the policies for what kind of data these agents can receive or not receive? And then simply the perspective of inefficiencies due to all of these cases. What MuleSoft has brought to the market, it was presented extensively at Dreamforce last month, is our MuleSoft Agent Fabric. Agent Fabric helps you solve the governance problem, the orchestration problem, and the observability and security problem with multiple agents. As I said, we covered these things rather extensively in our first webinar in this series, so I'm not going to go over it again today, but if you're interested in hearing a little more detail, you can refer back to that recording. What I'd like to speak about today a little bit is LLMs in oil and gas, and specifically how to go about choosing use cases. Now, as with any technology, the key is first of all to start with business drivers and not with the technology itself. LLMs have been getting a lot of press, and so there's a temptation to be drawn into the mode of an LLM and AI is the answer. As always, with any technology, we have to step back and first of all ask ourselves, what problem are you trying to solve? Failing to do this risks the technology just becoming a AI parlor tricks or a science fair experiment. The challenge with LLMs is the paradox of choice. There are so many things that you can do with generative AI. The question becomes, how do you find the right starting point? And as is the case with any complex problem, it's useful to begin breaking the problem down into components. Chip Wen, in his book AI Engineering, documented some of the work that has been done by AWS, by Deloitte, by O'Reilly themselves in surveying and categorizing AI use cases. AWS breaks down these categories as customer experience, employee productivity, and process optimization. Customer experience, focusing on the external customer value. Employee productivity, focusing on the internal customers and helping to make employees more productive by simplifying their activities. And then process optimization, looking broadly at what the organization is seeking to accomplish and finding ways to just improve throughput, efficiency, minimize resource consumption, and so on. So one category, one framework for breaking down these AI problems is this one presented by AWS. O'Reilly, in a 2023 survey, asked customers, survey respondents, to tell them what kind of applications in AI are being used. And they saw it break down into technical tasks and content interaction tasks. Now, the technical tasks, programming, data analytics, and so on, these are well understood. The content and interaction tasks, where it's customer support interactions, the creation of marketing copy and content, these are things that LLMs are exceptional at because it's got to do with word manipulation. So one way of looking at your potential AI project is breaking down into these technical versus content tasks. Deloitte, in their characterization of the opportunities, looks at these four categories of cost reduction, process efficiency, growth, and accelerating innovation. Now, no matter how you look at it, there are going to be, for each organization, different ones of these categories that will resonate more strongly. When we start to look at specifics, we can see that in the AWS framework categories of employee productivity and process optimization, we can look at things like augmenting the work of your geoscientists in understanding seismic data that's being captured, optimizing drilling operations and supply chain logistics. O'Reilly's categories of data analysis and other copy generation. You can see real-time monitoring and automatic generation of regulatory reports. This is a use case that we see often, not only in oil and gas, but also in other highly regulated industries like banking and pharmaceuticals and so forth. Cost reduction, AI-driven, as Deloitte's report talks about, AI-driven insights to reduce equipment downtime. This is clearly an activity that oil and gas producers are intimately concerned with. And actually, one of the things that we're going to talk with you a little about is accelerating innovation. Being able to simulate new products and services and use the AI as a means of simulating the operations of those processes, as well as just using the ideation capabilities of the LLM to decide what new products and services might be best offered. All of these are real world examples of where value for your organization might be derived. And the question becomes, how do you bring this to bear in your organization? These frameworks are just here as category groupings. Like I said before, when we've got a big problem, we know just for general experience that breaking it down into smaller chunks and then focusing helps us solve the problem. Now, when we at MuleSoft run workshops for AI ideation and development, we will provide and help to deliver exercises that, first of all, discuss which of these frameworks resonates most. We'll think about what's the right way to think about these kind of problems within your organization. As I said, it resonates differently in different groups. We'll break groups out into teams that can then go brainstorm by picking a category and then drilling down into that category and just coming up with brainstorm ideas on where there might be value. And then as the group comes back together and prioritizes, it's often the case we see that those groups have begun to coalesce around often very much the same kind of use cases. And so the high visibility, high feasibility use cases often pop to the fore very quickly. Now, when we do these workshops, we'll often break them out into these four categories of the possible, assessing enterprise readiness, doing the brainstorming about use cases I've described, and then beginning to do some architecture blueprinting so that we can take it from ideas to actionable tasks and projects. So we will have opportunities perhaps to get together and do some of these with those of you that are participating in our events here, and we look forward to do that. So I'm going to wrap up here right now. Just want to give some ideas about how to begin thinking about tackling projects, choosing the right ones. And now, Melanie, I think we've got a survey and an opportunity to win some prizes, right?
Absolutely. Thanks so much, David, for the content. Yeah, so if you will take a picture of the QR code, we have a short 3-question survey for everyone. And if you answer the questions, we'll reach out post this session today to make sure that you can win Max the Mule plush. They're fun to have on your desk. Everybody loves Max. And let's get started on that survey, Michael.
Yep, the survey's going already, and we're on to
Okay,
the second question. So
great.
they're about 10 seconds each. And so as you each plug in that QR code, you'll see the survey. And now we're moving forward to the third question. Just a few seconds. So it's a neat little plushie. We'll just give them out to everybody. So it's pretty neat if you want one. We can also bring them on site with us to a workshop. What David spoke about, I've sat through those, are great. We'll bring some of those with you with us at that time. Okay,
Wonderful.
so that gets us through the survey. Okay,
So
so
it's, I think you, Michael.
yeah, it's me. Last week we talked about Lone Star Oil, a fictitious company, a super major, has midstream, upstream, downstream operations, and last week they were running into some issues, and you can review that, and they've identified a use case they think could be quite substantial. So the operations manager and the operating officer says, we want to optimize how we proactively manage the assets. There's been some power quality issues and other environmental factors that I've noticed that some of the assets aren't performing to their specifications. And we've done a lot of warranty repairs and things like that. And so I know there's a lot of asset health information, and I've got the maintenance history too. I think if we get a little more proactive, I think we can get in front of some of these things. And so that's their use case. There's a really strong ROI on this. We realize that maintenance and issues like that can cost the U.S. industry billions of dollars in lost productivity and equipment issues and such, not to mention the safety risk that it imposes. So he gets together with his IT manager who sits on the council as well. And I've been hearing about our historian systems, and through our acquisitions, we've got a few different historians that get all the SCADA data and collect it. And there's been an interesting acquisition that's been done, and they're introducing a SCADA agent. So let's see if we can bring that SCADA agent in, and we can get in front of situations before they get critical, right? We can bridge what is typically a siloed operations. And I've seen some of the security that MuleSoft has been offering, and I think we can get around some of the security. We can protect and live up to the security concerns of the critical infrastructure, right? It's so important for safety and other reasons. And so the operations manager brings in Janice again, who put together that agent fabric demo last week. And she talks with the IT manager and says, hey, there's a SCADA health agent. What do you think about the idea of process mapping it with our work order agent? These guys were around last week and we mapped out that process. We did a workshop just on this. Janice pulls out her map of the cross-domain process, and we're calling it cross-domain because the OT systems, the operational technology systems for SCADA is in the OT domain, and then the work orders and the asset history and the health and safety information, that's typically another domain. And so we're now planning this cross-domain orchestration. And I think the key thing here that is being looked at is that the agent broker that does the orchestration has got incredible leading security policy rules to ensure that all communications are compliant. There's no unauthorized action. It's very secure. And she looks at it. She has her chief security officer looking at this, and they feel good about this. Janice lays out the plan on how she's going to have the SCADA agent now orchestrate with her work order and parts agent. And all the ESG procedures that are so important and the compliance to that, she maps that out as a MCP service, a context service, right? All those three are going to get orchestrated together. And she works with all the business teams, and Janice knows them. And before this plan, do, check, act procedures to do asset maintenance or asset performance optimization and management of change, before it required cycles of multiple phone calls, text message exchanges, text, screenshots, report changes, data analysis, manual handoffs between these people. For safety reasons, for compliance reasons, Janice believes that she can achieve and even get greater safety and automation with some of these agents that are already built. And so she knows that the systems in each department are class leading. The SCADA agent is from its own vendor, and the work orders agent is from ServiceNow or Maximo, or even Salesforce has a great service platform. That's an option, of course. She's just going to bring them all together like she did before and eliminate the manual burden and accelerate that life cycle. So she again maps out the external agents that she's going to bring together, like the SCADA historian agent, the product history, the service agent. It could be any number of service platforms that perform that role, and all the ESG safety procedures, compliance procedures are referenced here as a very secure MCP service. Then she builds again a broker network around those agents that she can invoke from any place. And here, for ease of example, we show that she invokes that from Slack prompt. A question like, what assets in pipeline 4142 and our Turtle Creek refinery are performing suboptimally and pose some risk to the business performance obligations? That brings up a lot of questions right there, right? For an agent to be able to have that, it needs to know who are our customers, what are our performance obligations, what's the asset history, what's going on there. We can get even more complicated. We're keeping it simple for now and bring in other environmental factors that can lead to things that are challenging. We're able to do that. And so last week you saw she discovered the agents from SAP. Well, here she discovers a SCADA agent, adds it into her catalog. And now she's building this catalog of registered agents. We didn't build a new agent. MuleSoft didn't build an agent. MuleSoft just cataloged the other agents that exist, and now we're orchestrating them. Very easy, very secure way to orchestrate those assets together. And as she's going through and building out each use case, her catalog is getting more and more valuable. Next week, you're going to see a third use case where we do a planning turnaround, planned maintenance. The week after that, I'm going to show you how we can do financial order to cash optimization by connecting the financial systems like an Oracle or an SAP. So that's the catalog. Janice has configured all this very easily. Like I said, she didn't build an agent. She used our very productive development environment and something we've made available called MuleSoft Vibes. MuleSoft Vibes is an assistant that provides insight on how to create this code very rapidly. So it eliminates undue burden on having to figure it out and check the documentation. So she's able to build this configuration. And then now she's got that agent available from Slack. So she can say questions to Slack, how are assets performing in my refinery? And it's going to look a little like this just to show what's going on. The agent catalog, the catalog of assets, this is what we're looking at today, this proactive broker. We'll look at the turnaround management and order to cash. We've got now a catalog of assets, logistics, inventory, asset health, billing, workforce safety compliance, work order optimizer from Agentforce, ServiceNow, right? All these things have been cataloged and built for this. We're going to explore this through the course of these next few webinars. But let's look at the asset health agent. It's just a registered agent. We can see what protocols it supports. It's got documentation here. We can see what version number it is. So we understand what we're working with. The proactive maintenance broker is just the broker that orchestrates that anomaly, right? It just connects the agents together. And so here's Janice is documented for the business, what value is being provided and such, so she can track that. Here's our safety procedures, MCP service that she's got policies on it. So again, tracing who's accessed it, what's the telemetry of who's accessed. There's full transparency to all conversations logged for compliance reasons, safety reason, and performance improvement reasons. And that is a high level of the catalogs of that which she uses. Here's a glimpse of Slack real-time interacting with this. So just a few moments ago, I brought up this question about asset performance and then business obligations. And the agent gave a very detailed response, and these are pulling from actual systems. So our library, if you want, we can connect to systems, or we can leverage the agents that can connect to systems. So we have options there. We can talk about those in those workshops Dave mentioned. So that's the end-to-end use case. So now we have an automated plan and an accelerated cycle. We didn't change the plan, do, act cycle. We actually improved how fast we can get through it. We didn't do something different around lifecycle management. We leveraged the technology so we could gather faster, get insights faster with the LLM, adapt and accelerate through that cycle. So this is the strategic advantage that's being leveraged right here off of assets that already exist. And it's really easy to put together. Proactive pipeline now is what they're calling it. So what used to require multiple phone calls, handoffs and stuff can now happen in seconds. And human in the loop or automated as far as you want to go. So again, pulled that all together with our fabric. That's really what I wanted to show us for today. There's more to show, as you can see. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Michael. Just in the spirit of time, I think it might be helpful for the folks that need to drop. I'm going to put a frequently asked questions document together from all of the sessions, and we'll get all of the questions that were asked in today's session, prior sessions, and next week's all into one document. We'll send it out to all the attendees. We want to thank y'all so much for joining us today. We hope it was valuable. Please take a shot of the QR code. That gives you access to even more content, deeper dive into the content. It gives you information about the workshops that David and Michael mentioned previously in our session today, and gives you the schedule for the remaining coming next week. We are going to extend out the agent-to-agent conversation that happened today. You're going to see multiple agents in action next week, and we're looking forward to seeing you then. Thanks so much and have a great rest of your week.